In this video, I'm going to take a look at comparing the Chat GPT 4 to the newest version of Bard from Google. So I'll be asking it some questions, mostly about programming, and we'll see how each one responds and how the answers look. We can see here on the screen how they're mentioning it's still in an experimental phase on the Bard. And also at the bottom, it does mention that it may display inaccurate or offensive information that doesn't represent Google's views. And over on the left side, we can see the same kind of message. Chat GPT may produce inaccurate information about people, places, or facts. And they say it's the Chat GPT May 12th version. And today is May 12th, so that sounds like it's the current version as of right now. All right, so we can click on the hamburger menu here, and then we get a place to enter a prompt. And on the left side, you can see that I've selected Chat GPT 4, which is the latest version. Now again, this is in the Plus version, which is a paid for service. So let's go ahead and ask Bard first of all, what is SPFX in SharePoint? So we'll go ahead and let that generate, and then I will put the same question over here in Chat GPT Plus. So we'll let that finish, and it's still going. If you want to stop it, of course, you can click on Stop Generating and answer. All right, it finished. So let's compare. First of all, the Chat GPT answer is substantially longer, although they both look pretty good. So then we can just kind of compare the two and see how the answers look. On Chat GPT, it's saying the SharePoint framework SPFX is a page and part model that enables client-side development for building SharePoint experiences. And on the right side in Bard, it says the SharePoint framework SPFX is a modern development platform for building SharePoint web parts and extensions. And it's based on web technologies and tools that are familiar to most developers, such as HTML, CSS, JavaScript. SPFX provides a consistent development experience across SharePoint Online, SharePoint Server, and Microsoft Teams. And the ChatGPT says it facilitates easy integration with SharePoint data and provides support for open source tooling for the development of workflow. So anyway, it looks like they both gave pretty detailed answers. And when you scroll to the bottom here, you can see that you can click a button here and copy it to your clipboard or give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And on the right side in Bard, if I scroll all the way to the bottom, we can see we can give it a good response, a bad response, or we can export the response, or we can click on a button right here to Google it, which I like that. And if I click on more, so there's copy and report legal issue. Now if we scroll back up in Bard, I like this feature. We can look at some other drafts. So let's view other drafts. Let's view draft number 2. And draft number 3. So I like how it gives 3 different types of answers. Now I will ask it to summarize what it just wrote. And so I type that in, and then I have to click the down arrow. Let's do the same thing over here. Okay, so let's see what it says. Okay, I accidentally clicked the microphone. Sorry about that. I'm using my microphone at the moment, so let's go ahead and submit that. And all right, let's see, what did it say here in Chat GPT? It's a tool set for building user-friendly application web parts, extensions for SharePoint and Microsoft Teams, developed by Microsoft. It uses modern web technologies and tools, React, Node.js, TypeScript. I mean, all that sounds good. And on Bard, it says, sure, the SharePoint framework SPFX is a modern development platform for building SharePoint web parts and extensions. It is based on web technologies and tools that are familiar to most developers, such as HTML, CSS, JavaScript. SPFX offers a number of advantages over previous SharePoint development models, including modern web technologies, open source, extensive tooling, and a strong community. If you're looking to build new SharePoint solutions, SPFX is the recommended development platform. So I think that's a pretty good summary. And then if we want to view other drafts, that one looks substantially longer. And what about draft 3? That kind of looks the same. So I do like this extra feature here where we can see more drafts, and then you can hit refresh to regenerate the drafts. So now let's ask it a more modern question. So I've typed in my question here: what are the most popular programming languages in 2023 where you can make the most money if you learn how to use them? So Bard told us the top or most popular programming languages in 2023 are JavaScript, Python, Java, C++, and C#. They're in high demand by employers and they offer good earning potential. JavaScript is the most popular programming language in the world. Python is a general purpose programming language used in a variety of tasks, including data science, machine learning, and web development. And goes on to give other answers about these popular programming languages. So now let's go ahead and ask Chat GPT. And so here we can see how it's telling us that its data was cut off in September 2021, so it cannot provide current information, but let's see what it tells us. Python has been widely used in data science and machine learning, kind of what Bard said. JavaScript, particularly with frameworks like React, Angular, Vue, is essential for web development. So I think the benefit here definitely goes to Bard because it seems to be trained on more recent information. So here we're going to ask one more question about 2023 data. What are the top paying software programming positions in 2023? So there we'll ask Bard. Now let's go ahead and ask Chat GPT version 4. So it's of course telling us its data was cut off in 2021, but it does go on to answer the question with what it thought were the most popular in 2021. So let's compare the two and see what it looks like from 2021 to 2023. Solutions architect is number 1. And on the right side in Bard, it says software engineer. It doesn't really list them in an exact order, I don't think. It's just telling us here are the top paying software positions. And we can view other drafts. in Bard. And here are some of the average salaries that it's showing us here, which is nice to see that it went ahead and generated that information for us. And they mention it's just averages, not actual salary you will earn depending on your experience, skills, and location. However, these positions offer the potential to earn a high salary and have a rewarding career. So what does draft 3 look like? So while that's being queued up, we look at the Chat GPT side, and it did not give any dollar amounts. It just gave a list from 1 to 10. And so it looks like this third answer on Bard on the right side of our screen is giving some additional details about each of the positions, which is kind of nice. So I do like how it is handling this, kind of giving different answers, like you ask 3 different people and you're getting 3 different answers. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so I've queued up another question here. I asked it, can you explain in detail how to use Power Automate from Microsoft to create a SharePoint page that has Word templates embedded in that SharePoint page? So let's go ahead and ask it that and see what it says, and then I'll go ahead and submit it to Chat GPT. Alright, so let's look at the Bard answer. There's 19 steps, which sounds about right because there is a lot to do in order to do something like that. So I'm just going to quickly read over if you want to read along with me here and see the list from Bard. It's talking about logging in, clicking create to create your workflow, go into the choose trigger dialog, choose list, then you got to pick the SharePoint list that you want to use, so it gives you a choice and a drop down, and then select the column that you want to use to trigger the workflow and then click create. Select add an action, type SharePoint, get file content. Well, anyway, there's a lot of steps involved. And I mean, it does look pretty accurate. So let's take a look over here at the Chat GPT and what did it tell us? All right, its answer is very long and seemed like pretty detailed. It's explaining that the process is not common or straightforward. It can be used to automate processes involving SharePoint and Word separately, but embedding a Word document into a SharePoint page isn't typically handled by Power Automate. So then it goes on to explain some things, it looks like, in detail. And finally, it tells us that this was as of their last update in 2021 of September. So that, I think, will wrap up the video. I just wanted to show some examples of the two side by side. I definitely like several things here in Bard and how I can view other drafts and how the drafts are formatted with different information, and all seems to be pretty useful. And before I close the video, I did want to mention when I was setting up this account, I had to read over a bunch of different information here where Google was talking about managing and deleting your Bard activity. When Bard activity is on, Google stores your Bard activity in your Google account. You can review your prompts, delete your Bard activity, and turn off Bard activity in My Activity at any time. And so I can include the links to these if it makes it any easier. And here's another page in Google's privacy and terms. So I think it's good to review that if you haven't seen it before. And here is the generative AI additional terms of service. This is last modified March 14, 2023, so it's fairly recent. And here was kind of an initialization page. Meet Bard, your creative and helpful collaborator, here to supercharge your imagination, boost your productivity, and bring your ideas to life. Bard is an experiment and may give inaccurate or inappropriate responses. You can help make Bard better by leaving feedback, and then the button to go ahead and try Bard. And then lastly, there's a Bard FAQ page, which I was reading over some of this, and it is pretty interesting. What's Bard all about? Does it give accurate responses? How does it cite, and when does it cite sources in its responses? So again, just some extra links I'll include in the description. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. It is interesting comparing these two new AI technologies side by side and see what kind of answers they give us. It really is pretty amazing to have these types of tools available at our fingertips. Well, thanks again for watching the video, and I'll talk to you soon.
If you like this channel, please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new content.